for one of the biggest loads of female genital mutilation. What precisely would... I am bothered by the fact that if the all our laws prohibit and criminalize female genital mutilation, and we still have a high prevalence of it. I'm interested in the missing link. What precisely is the issue with female genital mutilation? Is it that maybe those who made the law didn't understand some fundamentals?
So in terms of prevalence, Nigeria doesn't have the highest prevalence in the world.
Oh yes.
So you have countries like Somalia, like Djibouti, having prevalence of about 98%, which means that if you bring, put together about 100 women, 98 of them in countries like these have actually been caught. But that's not the case in Nigeria. But for Nigeria, we're saying that the prevalence in Nigeria is about 24.7%. But because of the sheer size of our population, again, Nigeria is a single country with the highest number of girls and women that have been mutilated. By the time you do 24.7% of the total number of women and girls in Nigeria, then you're talking about quite a huge number. So that's it in that sense. But again, even apart from this, yes, you mentioned very clearly. So we have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which you mentioned. Section 6, subsection 2 talks about the fact that a person who performs female circumcision or genital mutilation or engages another to carry out such circumcision or mutilation offense and is liable on conviction to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 4 years or to a fine not exceeding 200,000 or both. That is what, the federal law says, which was put together, in 2015. Here in your state, again, even at the state level, you have about 13 states which have different laws. So your state has, again, what is called the Violence Against Women's Law, Violence Against Women Law, which was put together, passed and, became a law in 2016. It says very clearly, in section 9, that the circumcision or genital mutilation or of or a woman is hereby prohibited. And your state says that, the fine here is 100,000 naira or also imprisonment of, not more than 4 years. Yes, the laws exist. But Michael, tell me, how do you point to your mother? How do you point to your brother? How do you point to your relative and say, look, that is the man that actually mutilated my daughter. Go and arrest him.
All right, when we come back from this break, we will address those issues that Shola has highlighted. It's the still talking points on Splash FM in the city of Ibadan. Please don't go away.
Splash FM 105.5.
Do you need a fully furnished, nice and comfortable hostel accommodation in University of Ibadan? Or a place for seminars and executive trainings at the same venue? You do not have to worry. Adebayo Akonde Hall suits your lodging needs and provides you a home away from home. Adebayo Akonde Hall is a 4-star hostel built in a serene environment with constant supply of electricity. It has fully furnished rooms that gives you great comfort at an affordable price. Adebayo Akonde Hall is located at Ajibode Extension, University of Ibadan. To make reservations, visit www.adebayohall.com or call the numbers 0805-699-8718, 0805-699-8719, 0805-699-8720. Adebayo Akonde Hall. Built for comfort. Built for you.
Tètè máa bọ̀ 2,000 naira lówó fọ́ọ̀mù ẹ̀yin náà ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ralẹ̀ láti ọ̀dún 7 oṣù táwa yìí ẹ máa yọjú láti wá gba location letter yìí wọ́n bá sì ti wà ní Àjàkẹ́jì olówó tí gbowó sàánú complex Ìwó Road Ìbàdàn hello 081-4648-6572 tàbí 081-6607-3415.
Kamaru, where are you? I've
been waiting for you for over 30 minutes.
Oga, na traffic o. I been there yesterday.
Did you not leave early? I told you I have a meeting at 4 p.m. It's now 3:30 and the journey takes 20 minutes.
Oga, I'm very sorry o, but I see they very far. But Oga me, there's no need to worry. You fit call Alakowe taxi from your phone. Make them come carry you go for your meeting na. I be make you kukuma download their mobile app put for your phone na. It's simple. Nkwano, they don't reach your side sharply. All their motors be like our own self. Very clean and they get full AC.
Alakowe taxi?
Yes so.
Are you kidding me?
Alakowe taxi service. The taxi service that treats you like a real VIP. Simply download the Alakowe taxi app to your smartphone. Register your car to make payments easily or pay cash if you wish to do so. For more enquiries, visit www.alakowetaxi.com. You can also call 0905 393 4002 or 0905 393 4003.
Soy good juice, fruit juice so péye, soy good ni, ó ṣara lóore, ó ní vitamin, soy good juice, ó good gidi gan, kájọ máa mú.
Soy good fruit juice ohun mímu eléso tó ṣara lóore pẹ̀lú èròjà vitamin àti protein tí wọ́n fi pèlú ẹ̀. Soy good tẹ̀rín lọ́nà ọ̀fun mára jí pépé tọmọdé tàgbà ló mú lẹ́jẹ̀ wọn ni kékeré wà ńlá ń bẹ èyí tẹ́ ẹ bá fẹ́ ni ẹ béèrè fún aládùn èso oríṣiríṣi ni aládùn ọsàn apple mango chocolate pineapple soy good ẹ máa gbádùn ẹ̀ jù owó ẹ̀ wọ́n rárá ó sì wà lárọ̀ọ́wọ́tó níbi gbogbo iléeṣẹ́ GX Foods ló ń ṣe é wọ́n ń wá alágbàtà jákèjádò orílẹ̀-èdè yìí ẹ pè 090-9000-2695 àti 090-716-02624. Ohun mímu eléso soy good ó dára fún gbogbo ènìyàn. Soy good.
Kájọ máa mú. University from Scotland, Dundee, £5,000 scholarship for you. Hey, hey, oh.
Scotland has a proud history of education and offer fantastic value for money. The University of Dundee, Scottish University of the Year 2016-2017 is currently offering £5,000 scholarship to both undergraduate and postgraduate students starting in September 2018. Our study options include law, business and management, energy study, oil and gas, engineering, public earth, anatomy, IT and lots more. Meet our West African delegate in Ibadan on Thursday, 8th February between 2:30 and 5 p.m. at UK's office, 1 Shell Close, Ile-Oridetu, Onireke. For applications and visa inquiries, call Babs on 0817-5133-447 or visit www.dundee.ac.uk/international.
University from Scotland, Dundee.
Did you know that Nigeria accounts for the highest cases of female genital mutilation in the world? It is one of the most prevalent forms of violence against women and girls. Shock, severe bleeding, complications in childbirth, and sometimes death are consequences of female genital mutilation and cutting, also known as female circumcision. Stop female genital mutilation today. It has no medical benefit. This message is brought to you by Splash 105.5 FM, your integrity station.
Splash FM 105.5.
All right, you're welcome back. It's still Talking Points on Splash FM in the city of Ibadan. I still have Sholafa Gurusi. He's the Programs and Media Manager, Onelife Initiative for Human Development. We were talking before we went on that break about, having laws in existence, and we've not been able to quench this menace of female genital mutilation. I understand that female genital mutilation is practiced or is done for non-medical reasons. So if it does not have maybe let's use the common balance, if it doesn't have a healing power or a healing effect, why do we continue to practice it? In spite of the laws.
In spite of the law, it thrives for so many reasons. You just talked about non-medical reasons. There are times when, for medical reasons, I'll give very clear examples. So there's an organ, in every woman out there called the Bartholin gland, which is responsible for, lubricating, the external female genitalia, the genitalia of the woman. And of course, what happens very clearly with this organ is that there are places where these organs are excised, just at the thought that it may actually become inflamed, or it becomes inflamed, and then the doctors would recommend that it has to be removed. In that case,
that's legal.
Yes, that's legal. It is not, female genital mutilation. Okay. But in terms of, why
that is corrective.
Yes, that is corrective because, the life of the woman, is in question, at that stage. The doctor needs to do something to save the life of that woman. So it has to be removed in that case after analyzing, doing some tests and all of that. So that's corrective and it's not female genital mutilation. But as to why this actually prevails, despite the fact that you have laws at the federal level, we just talked about, the Violence Against Women law, which was put together in 2016. Or your state again also has what you call the Child Right Law, which was put together in 2006. And the same law again also has, a punishment, a deterrent, that is supposed to be for people who are engaged in this practice. But again, we continue to see the practice thrive in different locations. Because culture is the identity of individuals. If you situate these things, so when you listen to reasons why people do this, some will situate it very clearly, in culture and tell you that, look, it's culture, it is our culture. When they say that it is our culture, they are telling you very clearly that that is our identity. Take this away from us and then we have lost our identity. Others would also situate it in religion and tell you that, look, of course, you've heard, clearly when they say that religion is the opium of the people. The religion is even the super opium of Nigerians. So when we talk about, either Christianity or Islam, the two dominant religion, and then you talk about traditional religion as well, you begin to have people who will say very clearly that, look, this is also an injunction for us in the Bible, depending on how they interpret the Bible.
Okay.
But pastors have come out to say very clearly that, look, there is no part of the Bible that gives, makes allusion to female genital mutilation. The mention we have there is for male circumcision, which also has health benefits. Again, in terms of, the Quran as well, we've had, imams come on air, to engage and talk and say very clearly that, look, the law of the land is the law of Islam. And aside this, there is no portion of the Quran as well that says very clearly that a male, a female child, in this case, must actually be mutilated. So again, you also have that very thin line between culture and religion. And so when both of them fuse together, at times you even do not get to really understand, again, on which grounds people are actually making this claim. And this is also aside from, several health benefits that people, in terms of the meat they place on the table, and say very clearly that, look, if you do not do this to the girl child, she would have, she would continue to scratch. If you do not do this to the girl child, she would grow up to become promiscuous. Pray how, touching a female organ, for instance, very clearly would lead to promiscuity. When we should be talking about how do you bring up the child, giving a child good moral values, religious values, if for instance, depending on the religious affiliation of the parent. So these are very clear reasons why people continue to actually engage in the practice. But again, we're also beginning to see changes. We're beginning to have conversations. So someone was talking to us, on a television program, 2 days back, and he said, very clearly that, look, he was somewhere and then the child was going to be mutilated, and then people began to argue, no, don't do it, yes, do it. And I was excited at that because up until recently, it was just a clear case of it would have been done. There was no conversation. And we both know that for societies to actually thrive, for societies to grow, there needs to be a conversation about different issues, different practice. Saying again very clearly that culture itself is never static. It is always dynamic.
Just a little of this before we go to, the other parts of the matter. It's still talking points on Splash FM. There's this story that, emerged in the Punch newspaper of some 3 weeks ago. It says don't criminalize female circumcision. CMO, Council of Muslim Organizations, has said that female circumcision is a religious act that must be allowed to flourish and be practiced in all Muslim communities in Nigeria. This was said by the coordinator of CMO, Justice Idris Harun, retired, also urged the government not to criminalize the practice. He said here, I want to go to a place there. He says, he said Muslims should not be denied this practice as, according to him, it is a religious one endorsed by the Prophet. He also stated that female circumcision was not synonymous with female genital mutilation. We need clarifications here. What is female circumcision and what is female genital mutilation?
Michael, I was waiting for you to read that part of the news where he quoted the verse in the Quran. I was waiting for you to say, to read that part very clearly, because yes, I'm not an imam, okay? But I was sad, when we read this and when we saw this very clearly. There's also another woman in Kenya who is also, acting, pushing this very, very strongly to say that, look, people should actually have a right, to actually get on with their tradition, get on with their culture. But again, we also talk about, the protective heart, of government. We talk about, I always use this analysis and say, look, how come, when, the body of, health professionals come together and say, we need to do this to save ourselves from Lassa fever, we listen to them. We need to do this to save ourselves from, malaria. You need to use mosquito nets. You need to, protect, your environment. Make sure your environment is clean. We listened to them. When they came around and began to talk about, polio and all of that, okay, we listened to them. So how come it's different and we begin to see it in a different, light? His argument that female genital mutilation is not the same thing as female circumcision. It's just a play on semantics, okay? Of course, when this whole advocacy started, the expression being used was to say this is female circumcision. But because it was also being mistaken for male circumcision, because again of, the injury, the harmful effects, being done on, girls and women, that was why it was clear that we needed to begin to talk about the nomenclature. And then it was moved to female genital mutilation. And then we also have what we call the do no harm principle, which means that we cannot go into a community as an organization, for instance, and begin to show gory images, blood and all of that, trying to get them to understand what FGM is. No, there's a do no harm, regulation that also governs the space. Mm-hmm. We need to push out this message from the positive perspective. I'll give very clear analysis to this. So you remember when the HIV/AIDS advocacy started, we used to use skeleton, okay? And it still didn't get people afraid to actually go and have, sex without protection or being faithful to partners or abstaining. And then we had to begin to talk about it that, look, this thing does not show on your face. We needed to tell the story from a positive perspective. Look, there are harmful traditional practices we have engaged in for so long. I talked about culture, earlier on, which I think is the strongest, angle to this. We used to have something called force feeding. When a child is not eating, you pin down the child literally, and then you begin to force feed that child. But parents no longer do that. Again, okay. Aside from this as well, we also have cases when you want to get the navel on the child and the newborn baby off, you take a wet cloth, you put on the lantern, and you begin to use that to massage, the tummy. We no longer do all of this, okay? Because again, this is a harmful practice that giving time, giving new discoveries in science, we have seen that it has no benefit. I am not sure that the retired justice should be the authority when it comes to this issue around the health of individuals. Okay, the authority in this case are actually medical professionals, people who have spent their entire life trying to study what it is when it comes to the human anatomy. And that's why the field itself is so broad. You have people who will say, I'm a specialist when it comes to ENT. You have people who will come and say, I'm a specialist with your eyes, with your, these are very clear special. I think we should draw the line when we're talking about good, of society, when we're talking about the health of individuals. Okay. You hear very clearly, some of these circumcisers come and say that a child never dies in the hand of the circumcisers. What we have not had is what happens to the child after the circumciser has left. Okay, children bleed to death because of this. You have people who are not having marital bliss simply because they do not know. I was having a conversation while coming here. Someone mentioned, some of the work we were doing, and then she was like, she noticed that our child's, reproductive organ is different from us, and she had to go and ask the father and say, did anything happen to me? Said, no, I don't think we did anything to you. Unfortunately, the mother is late, but she doesn't enjoy sexual intercourse, and also so much damage has been been done. At the National Obstetrics and Fistula Center in Ebonyi State has the second highest prevalence in Nigeria. The chief medical director there, Professor Sunday Adeyo, very clearly said that 85% of the cases of vesico-vaginal fistula, which by the way is that, a case where women can no longer control their urination, is caused by female genital mutilation. Pray what other evidence we need to show that this is actually a tradition that is very harmful to us.
Okay.
And I think it's also an affront, on the government and on the law. When individuals like this come into public and say that, look, damn the law, damn whatever regulation, damn whatever, act is actually out, is actually out there. Because I'm sure that this went through processes. There were public hearings around this. People made, and it has become a law. Whether it's in Kwara State, whether it's in Oyo State, there are laws even at the state level to say that this is actually a criminal act.
All right. Okay. So now it looks like, for me, it looks like the laws are not potent enough. And a while ago, you were talking about behavioral change. How do we bring this to the table to dissuade people from doing this?
Okay, so that's why we're doing all of this. That's why we're talking to say that, look, we need to have conversations with people. We one of the first things we've had to do is to try and understand, do baseline studies to say, look, why do people do this? Okay, we need to understand where they are coming from. We need to go from the known to the unknown. You hear different reasons, which I mentioned earlier on. Some of the other reasons you also hear is that, look, if the head of the child actually touches the clitoris during childbirth, the child would actually die. In one of the communities here in Oyo State, we found that the clitoris is cut and then used to actually ward off evil spirits. And then how do they do this? They tie, a rope around the clitoris, to the hand of the girl child, and then, before it shrivels off finally, and believe that, it wards off, different evil spirits. In some locations, different, things. And, you mentioned very, quickly earlier into, the conversation, the fact that, when we talk about sexual rights, we're also talking about human rights. Individuals have a right to sexual well-being, okay? The same way we talk about mental well-being as well, talking about the psychological, effects in all of this.
All right. Okay. A word. I remember that people were saying that if you want to eliminate FGM, you need to, create another enterprise for these people who do circumcision. What's your perspective about this?
Again, like I said, it's also an affront on the law. Okay. So I sell by the roadside at Iwo Road. Government comes tomorrow and says, look, we're following the national, the state plan. We need to make this road better and accessible. And I insist and say that before you move me out of here, okay, you need to do. Meanwhile, all along, you knew that was actually a wrong spot. You knew that road had actually been, planned for that purpose. I think if government itself has actually come out to say that this is a law, but again, we understand, the carrot and stick approach and all of that. I still feel that very clearly it's important. Okay, we've seen circumcisers say that, look, we've listened to you. I think these arguments are brilliant. We will no longer, engage in female genital mutilation. We will no longer touch the girl child. But for every male child we circumcise, we will charge double the price.
Okay.
Okay. So there has to be homegrown solution also from them. And again, government also needs to wield the big stick to say that, look, our responsibility, that's why it's called government, is to actually govern over society, provide laws that benefit, benefits the general society itself, and not just a sect of the society. Again, I'm excited that some of them have also come together to say that, look, this practice should also end.
All right. Just in 20 seconds, what do you want society to do in this case, our neighbors, our friends and all that, in cases where there is suspicion that something, female genital mutilation is about to be performed? In 30 seconds.
We need them to have conversations, bring in professionals, bring in trusted, adults, bring in trusted individuals, call medical doctors that you have as your contact, call people who are, even enlightened, check online. And that's exactly why we're talking to the next generation of, girls and mothers to say that, look, as long as we can actually deal with the demand side of female genital mutilation, we will be able to end the practice.
Thank you very much for coming. I'd like to say that this discussion continues. I'll be having someone also, second half from the Child Protection Network. We'll be continuing this discussion as it is the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation. Meanwhile, thank you very much for coming. Programs and Media Manager, Onelife Initiative for Human Development, Shola Fagurusu. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me, Michael. Thank you.
All right, it's still Talking Points. I'll be back at 3 p.m. We'll have time to talk about this matter.